ready? Okay. Okay, awesome. Folks, we're going to go ahead. We're not going to start our official board meeting, but we're going to go ahead and do the performances. We'll get started. And I did tell Principal Coyle that I know she had some of our students that were going to recite the Pledge of Allegiance and the salute to the Mexican flag. So we're going to go and do that, and then we'll watch the performances. Thank you for joining us this evening. Go ahead, Mel. Okay.
Good evening, Madam President Flores, members of the school board. Let me introduce Samantha Marcus, a second grader, and Jade Campos, both second grade. Okay. Please rise.
I salute the flag, you stay in Mexico.
This one, I pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Yo prometo lealtad a la República de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. I salute the flag you stay in Mexico, the sea a symbol of perfect friendship and my united cultures. Saludos a la bandera de Estados Unidos de América, de Nuevo México, México, el símbolo de amistad perfecta entre culturas unidas.
Thank you. You can now be seated.
Ms. Coyle, I'm going to do a little change here, if I may. Since there is a quorum of us, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, and then what will happen is we'll watch the performances, and then we'll take a pause until a superintendent arrives. So let me go ahead and, so thank you for joining us. I now call this meeting to order, our Gadsden Independent School District's regular school board meeting for Thursday, February 22nd, 2024 at 5:08 p.m. Ms. Delgado, can you please take roll call?
Mr. Castillo,
Present.
Ms. Flores,
Present.
Mr. Lira, Ms. Murillo,
Present.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Present.
Madam President, we have established quorum.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on back to Ms. Coyle.
Madam President Flores, school board members, tonight we have a choir performance sponsored by Mr. Santa Maria, our Vado Elementary art teacher. All right, so he's been working with the students for choir. He's multi-talented and amazing, and he also did the backdrop. Our kinder students will be singing Mr. Golden Sun, followed by second graders singing You Are My Sunshine. The final performance will be 4th through 6th grade students singing Here Comes the Sun. I hope you enjoy the performance.
Sorry, technical difficulties. So those were our kindergartners. Next group is going to be our second grade, and we're going to get up on the stage, and then we'll have our next performance. Thank you. And they're going to be singing Your Words and Church. If you're a parent, you're probably our right?
Zoom in a little bit more, pero like that, but it can get this side of these kids, okay? Because I can get the other
Okay.
Thank you for that performance. That was beautiful. Okay, moving on to, I did skip our mission statement, so Ms. Rodriguez, can you please read our mission statement?
The Gadsden Independent School District will provide diverse educational opportunities that will empower students to be successful in an ever-changing world. El Distrito Escolar Independiente de Gadsden brindará diversas oportunidades educativas que capacitarán a los estudiantes para tener éxito en un mundo cambiante.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Moving on now to item 3 on the agenda, Superintendent Dempsey's district updates and recognition. Superintendent Dempsey.
Thank you, Madam President. Board members, thank you for joining us this evening. I apologize for my tardiness. I just had to use a bunch of back roads to get here. So the first two items, we have item A, Art Show winner at Gadsden High School in recognition of Fine Arts Program, Fine Arts Group, All-State Elementary Choir, and STHS Band. Mr. Beach is going to help us present these items.
Good evening, Board President Flores, members of the board, and Mr. Dempsey. Tonight's my honor to recognize more of the achievements of our district fine arts students. Mrs. Tarazona is going to help me pass out some plaques. Some of the kids couldn't make it tonight for various reasons, and they may be stuck in traffic too. First, from Gadsden High School, art student Jimena Sanchez. Jimena, come on up. No, she doesn't. Jimena placed third in her division at the El Paso Community College K-12 art show. She was third out of over 200 entries. She also placed first and earned best in show in the high school division at the Socorro ISD Black History Month art contest. So we just want to point out her and recognize her hard work. Jimena Sanchez. And her art teacher is Miss Arredondo. Miss Arredondo, please stand up. That's her art teacher. Next are our elementary music students. 5 of our district music students auditioned and placed in the New Mexico American Choral Directors Association Elementary All-State Choir. And they traveled to Albuquerque on January 25th and performed with students from across the state. So from Santa Teresa Elementary, we have Siana Lomanvier and Mia Melendres and William Pettis. Congratulations. Their director is Miss Melissa Solares. And then from Chaparral Elementary, we have Emily Hasso and Anthony Apodaca. And those kids got to go to Albuquerque last month and spend a couple days there and sing with kids from all over the state, which is very exciting for them. Finally, this evening, we have 10 of our high school band students who auditioned and placed in the New Mexico Music Educators Association All-State Band. Like I said earlier, not all of them are here tonight, but we want to recognize those that are. All these students are from Santa Teresa High School. They traveled to Albuquerque in January, and again, also performed with students from across the state. So tonight, I think I'm going to read the names and we'll give out the plaques to the kids that are here. Jaime Godinez, Damon Gonzalez Campos, Zena Hernandez, Benjamin Jimenez, Preston Johnson, Giovanni Lobrado, Jeremy Lampman, Javier Murillo, Elsa Rubio, and Esmeralda Sanchez. Congratulations. This is your second year, Benjamin? You made this your second year you make All-State? Okay, so Benjamin's second year All-Stater. First year. And the young lady in the far right, she's a freshman. So that means she has a chance to make All-State 4 years. So congratulations. Their director is Mr. Daniel Allen. He's here somewhere. Mr. Allen, right there. So thank you. Congratulations to the Santa Teresa High School Band. And we'll make sure the rest of the students get their plaques this evening. Thank you, board.
Could we have the kids come back so we, well, take a picture with the board, probably over there? Or stage, okay. So those of you who got, have the flags this evening, go ahead and come back to the stage so we can take pictures. So everybody that was recognized this evening, come, don't be shy, come forward.
Mr. Dempsey on the side. He's back there, hiding. Mr. Dempsey. Mr. Dempsey. Dempsey. She's good. Now, Mr. Dempsey. Mr. Dempsey. Can't see you. Come forward. Yes.
Stop chewing gum.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Good job. Thank you.
Okay, we want to congratulate each one of those on those achievements. We're very proud of them. Our next item is a legislative update. This should be pretty brief. We all know that House Bill 2 includes our public school budget. There is, I think at the end, as we build our next year's budget, I think we're going to have some space to be able to do some things. There is included a 3% across-the-board increase for all school staff. There is no averaging language whatsoever in the bill as of now. Now remember, the governor still has to act on it, and she still has line item veto power if she chooses to use that. And so there'll be more to follow as she signs that and we move that out. The other piece, which is a really important bill, involves graduation requirements. And this wouldn't go into effect until believe the current 7th graders started their freshman year. So we got a couple years to put this together. New Mexico, they stayed with the 24 credits for math, for English, very similar, but they gave the option for a district to pick 2 of those 24. So what we'll do is we'll try to gather some scenarios for the board and let you take a look at what you like, and we have a little bit of time. And then you'll decide locally what you want 2 of those 24 credits to look like. And then I got to add a piece, because something that is unique in Gadsden is that prior to pandemic, we had always required 26 credits in Gadsden. We went above the state requirement by 2 credits. And so I'd like the board to have that conversation where you're at, and then you'll also get to make some decisions on what those, if you choose to go to 26, what you want those additional 2, which would be a total of 4, want those to look like, okay? Now, the one big piece that did change is that Algebra 2 is no longer required to graduate from high school. You still have to have 4 credits of math, but one of those no longer has to be Algebra 2. We as a district are required to continue to offer it, but it's no longer going to be a requirement for that class. That class hasn't even hit high school yet. We got a couple years to figure it out, but we want to make sure we're well poised. And you'll hear some of the things tonight. Mr. Wogemuth later in our discussion will present about competency and those pieces. All this will tie together down the road, okay? Thank you. All right. Next, we have our student representative. This is Brianna Hernandez, who is 11th grader at Alta Vista Early College High School.
Good evening, Madam Board President Flores, school board members, Superintendent Dempsey, and guests. My name is Brianna Hernandez, and I'm a junior at Alta Vista Early College High School, and it is my pleasure to report the latest on my school. First of all, Alta Vista Early College High School has accepted 65 incoming freshmen for the 2024-2025 school year. 25 students from Chaparral Middle, 19 from Gadsden Middle, 19 from Santa Teresa Middle, 1 from Harmony School of Innovation in El Paso, Texas, and 1 homeschooled student. Ms. Ella Garza and Ms. Angel went to each school to present the accepted students with their school lanyards, badges, and letters of acceptance. We look forward to seeing them on campus next year. This weekend, I had the opportunity to travel with 16 other students in our BPA group to our state competition in Albuquerque. 6 teams placed first, 5 teams placed second, and 2 teams placed third in a variety of categories. The categories I competed in were digital media production and broadcast news production. 15 students qualified for nationals, which will be in Chicago, Illinois, on May 10th through the 14th. I am proud to be one of the students who qualified to go to Chicago, and we are all working very hard to prepare for nationals. Every year, the state BPA organization allows students from across the state to run for office. This year, the elected president is a student from Alta Vista, Alexa Chavez. She will hold this prestigious office for the 2024-2025 school year. This role will require her to plan the state conference and many other duties. This is a great opportunity for her. Mrs. Brinegar will be taking 11 students to compete in the InnoVenture Challenge on March the 20th at NMSU. Dr. Acuna took 5 students to the National Regional Science Bowl in El Paso, Texas. This was a highly competitive science and academic event held as a verbal forum where students solved technical problems in all areas of science and math. This was the first year they participated, and they won 3rd place. Additionally, Dr. Acuna will be taking 3 students to the Southern New Mexico STEM Challenge at the New Mexico Military Institute in Roswell, New Mexico on Saturday, March 16th. This is also the first time they will attend, and we know they will do great. We would like to thank Ms. Rosie Villalobos for her support in sending our students to this great event. This weekend, Mr. Almeida will take 8 students from his chess club to a chess tournament at Loretto Academy in El Paso, Texas. We wish them good luck. Seniors had a FAFSA night last month to prepare for their post-secondary education. Mrs. Angel and Ms. Aragarza will be taking 21 juniors and seniors to NMSU for the Aggie Experience on Saturday, March 23rd. Ms. Campos will be taking 18 students to the Mesa Day competition on April 30th in Albuquerque. Juniors will meet with DCC advisors in April to plan for their senior year. Lastly, we would like to report on Isaías Alvidres, a 2022 graduate who joined us at the BP Awards ceremony on Saturday. He was a member of the district student leadership, graduated as a salutatorian, and was accepted to UNM's BAMD program. We are proud to inform you that he will begin his practicum this summer. He is planning on changing his medical specialty from pediatrics to OBGYN. We wish him continued success in his journey to become a doctor. In closing, it has been my pleasure to have shared about my school, Alta Vista Early College High School. And as always, we thank the school board, our superintendent, and the Gadsden community for your continued support. As a student of Alta Vista Early College High School, I want to express my gratitude and appreciation for this excellent opportunity as I begin my journey to higher education. Countless opportunities have opened new doors that continue to expand my passion in the medical field. I am looking forward to choosing my DCC classes for the next semester that will support my field of study. Thank you once again for your continued support.
Thank you, Brianna. Moving on to board member reports, we'll begin with Mr. Castillo.
Thank you. I always enjoy watching, the kids sing, something that I like to do but shouldn't do. But we're always learning. As much as I like to sing, this is the first time I've ever heard "You Are My Sunshine" in Spanish. Blew my mind. It blew my mind. I'm still trying to process, but man, wow. But yeah, and then you see the kids, the younger they are, the more they get into it. Those older kids were like, okay, we'll sing. But I love seeing those little ones. Thank you.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Good evening. It's always nice to be back at the school where your kids went to. so it's very neat to see the Vado Stallions. And I want to thank Mr. Santamaria for taking the role, the dual role. He is the art teacher, and he's also working with the music, and he's doing a great job. I mean, that's amazing, right? And definitely the kids did wonderful. I know the sixth graders might be a little bit afraid or embarrassed, but they did great. So thank you for that performance. It was amazing, and it's nice to see faces that I recognize. So thank you. And well, I think by the report that Ms. Brianna gave, we can see all the great things that are happening within the district, right? Many of the kids are having great opportunities to go outside of the district and experience something different. So I think that we all need to see that and support our kids and encourage them to participate in different things. That way they have the opportunity to be out there and see, other things besides what we have here, or aside from what we have here. And of course, again, I'll remind you, one way to keep informed is to participate during the Coffee with the Principal. That's the campus-wide information that you will receive. So the other one is during Coffee with the Superintendent, what is happening within our district, and it's an opportunity to give your input as well. So please, parents, be a part of that. That way you are acquainted with what's happening within your child's education. Thank you.
Mrs. Maria.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much to Vado Elementary for the hospitality, for feeding us. Tacos were good. You guys missed out for the ones that couldn't be there. So I apologize to La Union Elementary. I wasn't able to go there because I'm here. Today they had the science fair, and then yesterday was math night in Santa Teresa Middle School. It seems like there was a lot of cars. This week I took upon myself to attend events within the district, as I wanted to be a little bit more involved, and my job allowed a little bit of time to attend those events. So I'm going to start from yesterday. I went to the youth job fair, and I'm super happy to say that I met the person in charge of workforce solutions on the Southwest. We had an amazing turnout. I didn't expect to have so many students from the area. We even had a van with Chaparral students that showed up. And the guy in charge, he said, I just wanted to let you know that everybody's going to get hired. We have a big funding. We were not expecting this, but it was also the first job fair in the Southwest. So that was really good news. They still went through the process. They had to do the resumes. They had to do paperwork. They sat down and interviewed. So it was amazing to be part of that, and it was really neat. Also, I wanted to say happy belated birthday to Cristian Lira, our newest board member. It was 2 days ago. I just found out this morning, but he's not here, so hopefully he's watching. I attended also the Santa Teresa High School versus Gadsden High School baseball game. That was an amazing event. I was not expecting so many people to show up. I showed up at 6:45 and I didn't go in until 7:20. There was a big line. Mr. Dempsey was way behind me. But it was a really, really nice event, even though Santa Teresa lost, Gadsden won. Yes, I had to say, Gadsden won. But it was really nice. And then just in community, we saw community, we saw parents, we saw students. Sunland Park Police Department showed up. I mean, that's what I'm excited to see, seeing the community coming together for an event like that. And then one of the security guards from Southwest and tells me, don't you guys have anything else to do on a Tuesday night? And I'm like, honestly, we don't. And this is a big deal for the kids to be playing at that field as well. So I just thought it was really, really neat to be part of that. And then I went to the first Gadsden Independent School District All Band Festival. We had middle schools and high schools. Well, it was every high school. And that too was amazing, and I really hope that Mr. Beach continues that. I knew it was the first year and it was a big success, and I hope we continue this. Then I went to the Gadsden annual inspection. I have never been to one of those, and I went for the first time. It was hot. I told Mr. Dempsey, it's hot, it's getting hot. It's 10 in the morning, and we were there for like about 2.5 hours, and then we went inside, talked to the kids. So it was really neat, and for them to present. I never been to something like that, and it was an amazing experience. So I recommend it for you guys for next year to try to attend one of those. This morning I went to the Santa Teresa High School one, so I was able to take some pictures. What else? Yesterday we had Congressman Gabe Vasquez attend Santa Teresa Elementary. I was able to be part of that too, and it was really neat to see the input from the parents, that they didn't have negative things to say. They were very grateful. They have a great system and great communication with the administration, and I think that's what we want to see in every school, right? We want to see that partnership. I'm trying to get a little bit more involved with things and fairs that the district does, more that I'm already in. So I told my husband yesterday, I need you to take the little one to get his vaccines. They were doing a vaccine fair. I'm like, he's due, so we'll take him. He was expecting a big line. He said that it was amazing, very smooth. So I want to thank Ms. Cregan because I'm sure that's part of you. And I mean, he said it was really good. The nurses were amazing. And he's like, and there was no line. So I really encourage those parents. It's free. There was no line. There was no waiting. They had vaccines, and the nurses were great with the kids. So take advantage of those things that we provide for you guys. And then I think that's pretty much it. I ran into the wrestling team, Santa Teresa team, when I was taking the pictures for the ROTC from Santa Teresa, and they were on their way to Albuquerque. They're competing tomorrow, and so good luck, guys. I told them that I was going to give them a shout out, and I was going to post them on Facebook. So I was able to take a picture. They were very excited and nervous, and they assured me that they were going to bring a first place and some medals. So I will report at the next meeting, because I said, okay, don't make promises, because I'm going to hold you guys to that. And this morning I went, last two things. This morning I went to the leadership district with the students, and amazing. I always tell the students when they come here and they sit with us, you know, like, tell us what do you guys need? How can we help you guys? And oh my God, when it comes to honesty and what you guys need and the issues, like everything is out there. Like they bring it on. And Mr. Dempsey, yeah, he takes it all, and so I really appreciate you guys having that. Ms. Hernandez and Mr. Wolgameth, the leadership team, they're in everything, and they're busy. And now that I'm like this week just being involved, Ms. Villalobos, like you guys are on it, and just I really appreciate you guys being at every single event and being involved with our students, with our staff. And then I just finished my day with an amazing lunch at Rolling Barbecue, something, Rolling Smokes. So the owner, he's a Gadsden graduate. He has the JTP, the job training program from Gadsden High School, working for him Thursdays and Fridays. So I went to visit them, part of my job, trying to like recruit kids for a program that I do through my work. And so I went to see potential students, and they were all working. They were giving me hugs, and then they get fed lunch for free, and then they still work and receive tips. I mean, it was an amazing experience. So I highly recommend for all of you guys. They're there Thursdays and Fridays from 9 to 3, and they work there with the owner. And he's, I mean, for him to give that opportunity and give back to the community, I think it's amazing. And he said, I do fundraisings, whatever you guys need, anything for Gadsden, I'll do. And across the street, there's a barber shop, and he's also a Gadsden graduate. He said, and I will do free haircuts for kids if I need to. So we have great community. I mean, if you're not involved, it's because you don't want to. Because we really have an amazing community here in Gadsden, and I'm super proud. It's kind of sad that I didn't graduate from Gadsden, because I now kind of like feel left out, but it's just amazing being a parent and being part of this, because I really enjoy that, and the barbecue was amazing. Okay, that concludes my report.
Yes, you should have graduated from Gadsden High School. We got 3 Panthers here. Okay, so once again, thank you for joining us this evening. I'd like to start off my report by thanking our principal, Cheryl Coyle, for her hospitality. Ms. Sophia, thank you for the food. It was delicious. Thank you so much. And to Mr. Santa Maria, thank you so much for the performances. I really appreciate que tomó el tiempo de enseñarles a nuestros estudiantes canciones en inglés y español. Eso nos enseña que está apoyando el programa de dual language. So what I just finished saying to Mr. Santa Maria is I really do appreciate, as a special teacher, to support the dual language program that we have here at Vado Elementary by, showing our kids how to sing both in Spanish and English, with Spanish and English lyrics. Thank you so much. So let's see what else. So as this legislative session has come to an end, I do want to take the time to acknowledge and thank our New Mexico representatives, Willie Madrid from Chaparral, that represents the Chaparral community and the East Mesa or Sonoma area in Las Cruces, Ray Lara, Doreen Gallegos, Joseph Cervantes. Thank you for all your hard work this legislative session. Let's see. I also want to remind parents that have seniors this year, make sure that you're on top of your kids, make sure that they are applying for scholarships, make sure that they've already applied to get, what is it called? The FAFSA. I do want to give a shout out to, because I haven't seen Chaparral High School, so I hope they're doing something for our community over there, because I have seen on Facebook Santa Teresa High School and Gadsden High School are hosting FAFSA evenings next week. So I appreciate those 2 high schools, and hopefully Chaparral High School will be doing that also, because that is, I've done it a couple of years ago with my daughter, and now doing it with another son. It is kind of a tedious process. It could be intimidating for some parents, so your support, high school principals, would be greatly appreciated to support our families with that endeavor. And then I did get the opportunity to attend, I don't remember, when was it, Arlene? Wednesday? The pre-music assessment? Tuesday. So I didn't get to go to the baseball game. I wish I could have gone, but I was at Santa Teresa High School attending the pre-music performance assessment. Got to see all of our middle schools and high schools perform in preparation. I believe for next week, they'll be attending Oregon Mountain High School and Las Cruces Public School District for the music performance assessment. So the bands sounded beautiful. I did want to give a shout out to my community, Chaparral. I really thank you, Mr. Beach, Ms. Tarazona, thank you for hiring Mr. Short. I really almost, you know how I cry? I almost cried because I was like, wow, this sounds like a totally different band than when they first began. So all the work that he's done with our band, it's showing, and you know, I'm waiting to see our bands compete against Gadsden, and our band compete against Gadsden and Santa Teresa this upcoming marching season for the next school year. So thank you for all you do. Let's see. And then I'll conclude my report by two things is, Brianna, again, thank you for your report. And I did notice that you said that we've got a student from Harmony coming, I'm thinking back to Gadsden. If that's the case, that is awesome. Attending Alta Vista. Huh? The what? Oh, okay. So, but that's good, because I don't know if you used to be in the Gadsden district or not, so that's awesome that they're coming back to us. And then finally, I did want to encourage my colleagues here to save the date, because Ms. Tarazona reminded me, save the date, Ms. Flores. So April 10th, which is a Wednesday of this year, is going to be the Parent Institute at Gadsden High School. So, you know, hopefully we can all be there. If we're all going to be there, then well, I guess we'd have to put it on there since we'd be a quorum. But anyways, if we can go, that would be awesome. And I think that's it for me. That concludes my report. Okay, moving on to item number 5 on our agenda for this evening, the Human Resource Report. No action is required on behalf of the board. That is there for public knowledge, okay? And then moving on to item number 6, modification of the agenda. I did want to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Mr. Dempsey, and then go ahead.
Madam President, board members, I do have one item that I'd request be moved. Under consent agenda, item B, that's Fund 24101, Title I Maintenance Bar 2324. I'd request that be moved to action items.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and remove item B from the consent agenda, and then go ahead and move it under action items for this evening's, as part of this evening's agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion passes. Moving on to item 7, which is our regular school board minutes for February 8, 2024. I do want to go ahead and make a motion that we approve that with an amendment, and the amendment that I want to make is that listed on, when you open up that document under number 9, under open forum, the parents that addressed us last time, it does list Desert View Elementary. We need to change that to Chaparral Elementary. Okay, so I make the motion that we accept those minutes with making the change from Desert Trail to Chaparral Elementary. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to consent agenda, do I hear a motion?
Madam President, do we need to approve the agenda as amended? Right?
Oh, okay, because we just finished. Thank you, Mr. Castillo. You're absolutely right. Okay, so do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as it was amended?
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as amended.
Okay, Mr. Castillo has made a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Thank you for doing that, sir. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Moving on now.
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as amended as well.
Okay. Mr. Castillo has made a motion to accept the consent agenda as is, as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to open forum, Ms. Delgado, do we have any speakers this evening?
Madam President, we have none.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. And then moving on to action items, we have the one action item which is Fund 24101, Title I Maintenance Bar 2023-2024. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, and I may need Ludim or Erica to help me, but let me see if I can pull this off, okay? So within a bar, some bars require board approval and then pet approval. A maintenance bar only requires local approval, board approval. And these get uploaded into a system, and then somebody in finance will submit it. Unfortunately, with this bar, our finance was trying to get ahead, and they pressed enter already. So I want you to be aware that it already got sent. It doesn't impact anything, but it's not the typical process we follow. So I'm requesting approval with ratification, meaning we did a step early. We just pressed enter early, and now we'll approve it tonight. We've taken no further action. As soon as we realized that we stopped, and then knew that we had this board meeting. We realized it yesterday and wanted to bring that to the board so that you know it's a little bit unique in what we do. We just pressed enter a little early. Once we approve tonight, then we can move forward, no problem.
Do I hear a motion for that action item?
I'll make a motion that we approve action item, the fund for 24101, Title I Maintenance Bar.
Okay, Mr. Castillo has made a motion as stated. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we are moving now to discussion items. Our first one for this evening is Gadsden Middle School Construction Project Timeline. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, I believe Ms. Cadena is going to be able to help us with this item.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Superintendent Dempsey. So we recently met with Decker Parish Sabatini, the architects for Gadsden Middle School, to establish the latest timeline for the GMS design and construction. February 15th and the 19th, we met as a group, members of Physical Plant, SMP, Mr. Dempsey, the academic team, and the administration from GMS to go over the 95% plans of the school, where we also had, we reviewed them, we talked about things that were proposed, some of the things that were still in question, and we went over some things, we changed a few things or suggested a few things, and then they're going to come back and make sure that they added those requests and changes that we made during those two meetings. So they are about to finalize those plans in about 2 or 3 weeks and submit them to the PSFA for review and permitting, not permitting. So they are estimating that the PSFA will take until about April 19th to review those plans. And in the interim, on April 11th, Ms. Vela will bring to you for discussion to present the final plans and the rendering of Gadsden Middle School, so you can see a full color rendering of inside and outside of the campus. They're proposing to, if everything goes well with the PSFA process, we will advertise the request for proposal April 21st. The deadline for general contractors to submit their proposal will be May 21st. And we will have a couple of days as a committee to review the general contractor's proposal submitted and submit those for board action for the June 6th meeting. Once the board approves the final action or the award of the general contractor, it is sent to the PSCOC for their review and to put tentatively for the July 2024 meeting. The PSCOC doesn't do what we do. We plan a whole year of meetings. They tend to tell you, like maybe the first of the month, when they're going to hold the meeting for that month. So that's why I put it in red, because it's a tentative date, and because everything else that comes after that relies on that meeting, because that is when they will approve the funding for GMS, and then we will be able to do the MOUs, everything we have to do with the PSCOC, and that gives us about a month or so before construction or demolition, and then construction begins. Okay, so, and then the architect, and I'm sorry it didn't come out completely there, but that final sentence should be substantial completion, and they're estimating May of 2026, so that we can actually start using the school August of 2026. They think that they're estimating about 20 months for construction. I stand for any questions, comments?
Any questions, comments, or concerns for Ms. Cadena? Mrs. Padilla?
I just have one question for clarification. Why are we doing the board discussion on the 11th and not the other way around with a construction documents review?
Well, because April 19th is when we think the PSFA will bring back, well, will finish they take about 2 to 3 weeks to review the documents. So in the interim, we want to show you what was submitted, and then hopefully they'll finish by the 19th so we can keep our timeline.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You're welcome.
Any further questions, comments? Okay, thank you, Ms. Cadena. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Have a good evening.
Okay, moving on to discussion item 11B, restorative practices, Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, Ms. Villalobos and her team is going to present, I believe. I know it's some of them. Right?
Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey. For this presentation, we have our new coordinator for social emotional learning in the district. Just to let you know, he's doing a fantastic job. And one of the components of the SEL program in the district is restorative practices, and Mr. Bobadilla is going to be talking about it.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Dempsey. My name is Conrad Bobadilla. I am the new coordinator for social emotional learning for the district. It has been a privilege and an honor to be able to dive into the wealth of knowledge and resources that the district has. Restorative practices is a component of school connectedness and also the climate. And what I will be presenting is just a brief overview of what restorative practices are and the initiative that we are hopefully going to be putting into place very soon. What I have for you and prepared is a brochure. It is a condensed introduction of what restorative practices entails and what we are pushing into the classrooms, into the schools. So please take those and know that what we are doing is to improve the whole campus. So with restorative justice, we have 5 R's, and those are the components of the restorative practices and also the restorative conversations that we are trying to embrace. These include relationships between students and students, staff and staff, staff to students, and more. Respect between all individuals, responsibility between all individuals. We are emphasizing repair if harm has been done, and reintegration in the likelihood or in the instances when we have students or staff that have been removed for certain reasons and they come back to our campuses and they begin their progress in the classrooms, in the halls, or in the academic setting. With restorative justice, this is a non-therapeutic intervention that can be done by any individual. The purpose and goal of restorative justice is to increase conversations, and we emphasize that this is a voluntary intervention and experience that anyone is able to participate in. We emphasize that it's voluntary because we have to allow our staff and students the opportunity to opt in or opt out of this intervention, because voluntary participation is very critical as we embrace this practice. As of right now, we have successfully sent 2 campuses, which we are calling cohorts, to Albuquerque. These cohorts have received basic level training on restorative justice and restorative practices. Our first cohort was Chaparral High School. This cohort consisted of our mental health therapists, the administrator, Ms. Lopez. Our second cohort was Santa Teresa High School. Their cohort consisted of the mental health therapist, we had a counselor, 3 student representatives, and our administrator, Ms. Suggs. Our plan when we have this initiative put in place is to expand to the other secondary schools. We are encouraging that all campuses have a counselor, an administrator, staff, which includes teachers or any ancillary staff members, students, and family members. The approach is supposed to encompass a community and improve the culture, and to do so, we need to expand beyond just teachers and students. We want to embrace that the campus is a community that is open to anyone and everyone. As of right now, we have had presentations done to Gadsden High School. They are in the process of selecting staff members and students who will be participating in the restorative teams. Next, our step will be going to the middle schools and then to the elementaries. But really, any campus that is interested in this practice, we will definitely go, introduce, teach, coach, and try to apply these interventions. I know you have pamphlets of an introduction of what a restorative circle and a conversation consists of, but for the participants and the audience, when we hold a restorative conversation or when we hold a circle, I would like for you all to think of a conversation between 1 to 2 individuals, and a circle is going to be more of a group dynamic. Okay, we have had success in some of the secondary schools with classrooms, athletic teams, and also during like therapeutic interventions with groups. When we open a circle, it is important that we offer an invitation. This lets the staff and students know that this is a formal intervention just to build out responsibility and also encourage participation. When we hold a circle or a conversation, we always start with an introduction. We introduce the objectives. We encourage norms to be set and agreed upon by the entire community, the circle or the individuals. We offer questions, open-ended, so that we can embrace dialogue. Because through dialogue, we're able to encourage students and staff or any participants to advocate for themselves. We embrace a safe and healthy community, a culture that is open to change. An example question that we are using are, what happened? How did this affect you? These types of questions embrace empathy. They allow for students and staff to share not just what their perspective is, but also gives them the opportunity to reflect on what others are saying, what they've heard, and improve their sense of perspectiveness. Once we go through several rounds of questions, we end the group, we end a circle, and we end a conversation with a closing, which is more of a paraphrase or a summary of what's been said and done, and we plan for another intervention if necessary. But again, the whole goal of restorative practices is to reduce the negative effects of consequences. We embrace the code of conduct that the district has. We allow students to reflect on what actions have affected performance, but we don't harm the students by applying strict punitive measures. Rather, we allow the students to reflect on what those behaviors have done to themselves and to others, and that's how we determine harm. Teachers are able to do this. Actually, anyone is able to apply these strategies and techniques, not just when harm is done, but if they want to set up classroom norms or open the classroom into a forum to where students are able to speak their minds in a very formal opportunity. And then these are just resources that anyone can access. We have information from the New Mexico PED and also some other evidence-based research that O'Connell has published. This is a very exciting opportunity for some of our students. I will share that at one of the high schools prior to me becoming the social emotional learning coordinator, we applied these to a specific group approximately 7 times. And it was a starting, an ending, for all of those group interventions, and by the last session, we had students volunteering to lead, co-facilitate, and even requesting that we have a circle. It's an amazing opportunity, and it's fun, it's cooperative, and it's really an empowering experience.
Are there questions?
Yes.
Comments or concerns?
Any comments, questions, or concerns? Yes.
Do you have? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. So let me see, I'm trying to process because it's a whole lot of information.
It is a lot of
And it
information.
sounds like it's something that's going to be phenomenal, and I'm sure whatever you've been doing already has been working well. But I kind of got stuck. You said that there were 2 cohorts that
Yes.
already attended. So they were the ones that received training, and now they're training the trainers, or how is that working?
That is, sorry, Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Dempsey, that is a great question. And there are many ways to look at how it's been done. So the 2 cohorts that we have already in the district, through an application process from PED, through PED, they've been accepted to get training from individuals from Colorado and from the Prevention, Response, and Resiliency Department from PED. They are the official trained team leads. The team leads are now going to be responsible for developing more teams in different campuses, so that way we can initiate basic level type of interventions, so we can complement the MLSS process. So they would be able to initiate, coach layer 1 type of support.
So in a sense, that's what's already happening at Gadsden High School. You said that they have already received, or?
Chaparral High School and Santa Teresa High School are the 2 cohorts who have been trained by the specialists through PED. Right. Gadsden High School has a team in the works that is that are being recruited, so we can begin introducing them to these techniques.
And this will be presented by the teams that are already have received this training?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right. And I guess my other question would be, can the student self-refer, or is it specifically students that have had an incident for whatever reason? Are they the ones, like, do you have levels also, like this is a priority, this is someone, or how is that working?
The amazing thing about these restorative practices is it could be both. A student can request a circle or a conversation, but also our team leads are able to refer students to a restorative practice and make that offer.
Thank you.
I hope I answered that.
Yeah,
okay.
Definitely.
Anybody else before I go? Ms. Murillo?
Okay, for audience education purpose. Right now we have a lot of issues with the schools, and it seems like it's very common in all 3, I mean, all the way to middle school, vaping, right? And it's hard to address that issue. Students come to you with this, like it can be as small as, well, not as small, but as vaping, as bullying, as like, so it's like they bring any kind of issues. They just bring it up to you, and then you guys try to address it together as a team?
Yes. So that would be part of the objectives of when we are introducing and offering this practice. If, for example, your example, vaping, if that is the harm that the community has established, then that becomes the objective for the conversation or the circle. And then the team builds questions to begin that dialogue. So we're able to help the students, staff, or any individual process that, in this example, vaping has caused harm to individual A, B, and C, and this is the techniques that we are encouraging for repair. If they're willing to participate, then yes.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions. So just, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, okay, so just because this public's here, and then the ones that are listening, and then the ones that are going to listen later on when it's watching the recording. So restorative practices does not equal that our kids are going to get away with not having consequences, not being held accountable, correct?
Correct. So the code of conduct through GISD is going to be completely enforced, but restorative practices are going to be offered to assist students, staff, even family members rebuild connections that may have been broken during this infraction.
Okay. So I just want to make sure. So not every single student that is, because especially at the high schools, you've got your principal and then the APs that they divide, that I think they divide themselves to for disciplinary issues. So not every child that comes across with an infraction will be receiving, like you said, it's strictly voluntary.
It's going to be completely voluntary. That's what adds the empowerment. Okay. Is if the team lead is able to advocate for restorative practices and the family and student are willing, then they will be given that as a intervention. So I can give another example. If we have a student who has an infraction and they are placed in school suspension, restorative practices can be offered in ISS, and they can have a restorative circle or conversation to help them reintegrate back into the classroom while repairing some of the damage that the harm has caused.
Okay. So then I'm looking at one of the slides where it says circle leaders. So you've got an administrator, counselor, teacher, mental health therapist, social worker, and student. Yes. So at Chaparral High School and Santa Teresa, obviously you've trained that team of individuals that you've identified. It sounds like they had to go through an application process to be accepted, and have already gone to Albuquerque. So then will I guess the teacher that has been trained at these two campuses, will they always be the one interacting? Because then I'm thinking, like, help me, I see somebody shaking their head, I'm like, help me understand how that works. Because if I'm the teacher, like, just, I don't want them to be missing, like, class. When do these sessions occur?
So the team lead, they will not be responsible for facilitating every conversation or every circle. They may be able to act as a collaborator, or they may be able to act as a coach, or they can act as a co-facilitator. But the goal is that these team leads teach others on how to do the first layer. Okay. And then we have 2 grants that are coming from New Mexico PED that are offering professional development on identified teachers and students so that they can receive layer 1 type of support, so that we have more of a broad staff, I don't want to say pool, but staffing. Okay. Availability, yes, thank you.
So what it sounds like is that we're building sustainability.
Yes.
And so these individuals that got to go to Albuquerque, their commitment is to train other individuals so that they're not always the ones tied up.
Correct.
Doing this, okay. Another thing that I wanted to address is I believe Claudia and I have sat in these type of along circles, and I've been part of it with some folks that we know. Very powerful. So my question is, so then as a parent, if I have an issue with something that's happening at the campus, then I can very well would I go to the administrator to have a circle to address an issue that's going on?
Yes.
Okay, that is awesome because...
Yes, we are, part of this initiative is that these circles can be implemented in 504 meetings. They can be implemented in IEP meetings. They can be implemented in like leadership meetings, in almost any setting. Because the positives and like the really great benefits from restorative practices is that it doesn't have to be just when harm is done. It can be when we want to celebrate or when we want to reestablish norms and build that pattern of behavior and make it part of our own routine.
Okay. No, that's awesome because it's, just want to make sure that it's not just addressing disciplinary issues, that also adults can get involved in this, parents. And I believe you said, there's going to be trainings for parents. And I would ask that there is, just so that you all can send a clear message to address myths and make sure that, the public, the parents are aware of what it is, because we do hear many times restorative practices and people come up with their own ideas, and as long as we're educating our community and our parents on what it is and what it's not, I think we'll be good.
Yes, ma'am.
And yeah, that's awesome because that's so. That's an awesome way to bring concerns to the table.
It's very exciting.
And be ready, because it can get very emotional, but that's what it is about, is letting those things come out, being willing to listen to parents, to anybody, so. Any further questions or comments for the gentleman?
Madam President,
Mr. Castillo.
I believe TRC has something in place. They've already had they had a breakout in November, they had a breakout this, and I mean, it seems to be working well for them. So, I mean, if you need some more conversations, I mean, their 2 breakout sessions were very informative, so.
No, that is awesome, because many times, what it is when circumstances arise, what it is people's perceptions, and you don't communicate, and then we have expectations, and then we get frustrated because those expectations have not been met, but it's because there's a lack of communication between individuals, and the whole thing is building relationships, so that's awesome. Any further questions for the gentleman? Okay, thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Dempsey. Everyone, please have a very great and safe evening.
Good evening, sir. Okay, moving on to discussion item 11C, proposed regulation JJJR, student physical and insurance requirements. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, Mr. Wogemuth is actually going to present the next 2 items.
Madam President, member of the board, Superintendent Dempsey, they gave me the clicker. I don't know if that's good or bad news. And I also want to just mention, Mr. Bobadilla is a Santa Teresa High School graduate district product. So, you know, if you all weren't aware, I just wanted to let you all know that. Former student of mine, making me feel very old. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey, we spoke about this, I believe, earlier this year regarding possible regulation to ensure that our band students and our ROTC students were required to take physicals. As you know, regulations do not require board approval, but an opportunity, discussion, always to get input from you as we decide what is best to go in conjunction with our policy manual. So I think the important thing to know is this regulation that we are proposing will not contradict anything with the NMAA relative to the interscholastic sports, so just want to make sure that was clear. I'll show you a copy of the proposed regulation here in a moment for your feedback, but again, this will require a physical for marching band and NJROTC. This already occurs with both the GHS and the STHS ROTC, JROTC programs. We don't do it for band, but UIL in Texas in 2019 did require band physicals. They have kind of a little different process, but they do require those. And of course, other states that I found as well, but our neighbor in Texas is the one that I think most of us are familiar with. So this is the current wording of the proposed regulation. I'll read it to you. It's very short. Hopefully I can see it. The Gadsden Independent School District will comply with, and let me clarify that this regulation is going to be associated with policy JJJ in the handbook, which is extracurricular activity eligibility. So this first statement is making a broad statement about all extracurricular activities. That way it fits properly in the manual. The Gadsden Independent School District will comply with all New Mexico Activities Association student physical examination and insurance requirements for interscholastic sports, right? So just saying, we will obviously comply with that. In addition, the district requires student physical examinations for participation in marching band and Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps activities that occur outside of the regular school day. Now, I want to clarify why we put in here outside of the regular school day, because there is activities that happen during the school day which are covered as part of the normal procedure and insurance. Kids do marching band sometimes during that 45 minutes during the school day. The ROTC students do their physical fitness during the school day as well at times. And you have to think of those as regular PE. Does that make sense? We don't, right? We don't, for the regular PE classes, we don't require additional insurance for PE. So we want to make sure that this regulation is very specific to covering the physical requirement is to really cover those things that they do that are extracurricular in nature. Because again, marching band can count as a PE credit as well as JROTC. So I wanted to make sure you understood why that statement occurred outside of the school day was in there. And then finally, we've been talking about this, but this is where we're at right now. We think it's the best requirement. The physical examination requirements for marching band and JROTC will be the same as described in the NMAA bylaws. That's where they describe their physical requirements, excluding the concussion and sports portion. So the NMAA has a very excellent medical history and physical form. And our discussions now, we think that's going to be the best one to use so we don't create confusion with parents. If you're in band or ROTC, you got to have this physical form. If you're in sports, you got to have this physical form. We want to see if we can line them up. So that's where we're at with the regulation now. We're trying to hammer out the details of, about the form and those type of things. I think we all, as academic services, agree that, making sure our kids are physically fit to participate in some of those outside of school activities that are strenuous is important. And then I'll wrap up this one by sharing pros of this possible regulation. Provides reassurance regarding any student health or physical fitness issues. I think it would bring a level of comfort to everybody involved, the ROTC commanders, the band director, even the parents, to know that my child is out here exerting themselves. It's after school a lot on the weekends. Are they physically fit to do that? There is a con, and we may have mentioned it previously, but this may cause some longtime band members, it should actually say be ineligible, I mistyped there, should be ineligible to participate in band because the marching portion, because we've never required this. So, you may have had some freshmen and sophomores that have march, and then we require a physical, and the doctor says, listen, you have a significant physical issue that may restrict you from participating in marching band. I'm not gonna deem you physically fit to participate, and that's gonna cause that student who used to be able to march to not march anymore. And so that is definitely a potential con. We won't know what will occur until we do it. When you look at the NMAA physical form, it basically has, when they declare you physically fit, it sort of says physically fit for all sports, physically fit only for these sports. So again, being physically fit for marching band or ROTC, could be a lower standard than having to be physically fit for something else. I'm not a doctor, so I wouldn't be able to share that. But I think that's the biggest con in including this regulation. So that's where we have to balance. Any input or clarification I can provide or take back to academic services as we try to finalize this, and again, bring it back for additional review. One last thing, we do want to have this kind of sorted out by the beginning of April, so we can share with our parents, because after April 1st, any new physicals you get will count all summer, all the way through the next school year. So that's our target on deciding if this is what we want to do.
Do you have any comments, Mr. Lopez? Ms. Murillo.
So just one question. What will be the deadline, if you want to call it, for physicals? You said April. If they do physicals in April, that counts for the summer, because they do summer camp in June, I think it is, or July. So it will count for the whole school year.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey, that is what NMAA follows. So we want to kind of align the same thing. So any physical that you get after April 1st of this year will count for the whole summer and the entire next school year. So that's why with all of our sports, we don't want them to renew their physicals in March, because then it's only good for the rest of the year. We want them to renew them after April 1st. That way it's good for the summer and the whole following year.
Thank you.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam President. So I just wanted to clarify here, because I know you mentioned that the ROTC already has something. Now, I think I might understand, but they don't have it like as soon as they come into during the school year, or when the school year begins. I believe it's further in. Is it because of what you were saying, that it's more of the extracurricular? It's not until they start doing outside activity? Is that how?
Yeah. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey, that's a very good question, Ms. Rodriguez, and that's something we've just kind of been trying to get a handle on and chat about as a team. With ROTC, the example you've given, a lot of their physical fitness competitions and things that happen outside of school, they happen a little bit, the actual events happen a little bit later in the year. However, their preparation for those, could begin typically, in September or October, after they sort of sort out what everybody wants to do for the year, and then they might do some of their you have your armed drill team doing this over here, your unarmed drill team doing this over here. You have your folks that are doing the marksmanship in one area, and then you have your people that are getting ready for the physical fitness, maybe doing physical fitness specific things. And so that just sort of progresses throughout the year. The best mode is going to be to make sure, and RTC may not be on the timeline yet, but the best mode is going to be to get everybody that wants the physical after that April 1st deadline, so they're covered the whole year. Typically, you have to have that physical in place in sports prior to that season starting. What we don't like athletes to do is, if they're a basketball player and say, well, I'm not going to get, I'll get my basketball physical in August or September because the season and practice doesn't start until October. You have kids rushing. So our coaches really like to get, even though the season starts later or this physical is applicable for eligibility, we really want everybody to get it up front so there's no delay. And so we'll push that, and then what we'll do is we'll step back and look at when for marching band, when does the season type start? It's really going to be summer, during summer band. And then we'll want to talk about ROTC. When does your, practice season start for your after-school activities? That's something I don't have an answer for on, but we'll try to get that lined up.
Great. And then the other thing, I know you mentioned the biggest con, right, is that there's a possibility that some students might not be able to participate. But I think we all are just concerned about the well-being of the student, right? And it's harsh, per se, to be, have those kids that might not be able to participate, but yet it's for protection. I think that we all need to understand that, right? That we want our kids to be healthy and be able to participate. We want them to participate. It's not because we're deterring them from that, but, understanding that I think that really needs to be highlighted so that parents understand, we're not taking anything away from them.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey, as was shared earlier with the restorative practices, how we communicate the intention of our actions as a district to our community members, that's where the power is. And our community always responds well to, I understand why you're doing this. And so after we get this sorted out and bring it back for one more review, we'll make sure that we work with our band teachers and our RTC teachers to make sure they communicate on the positive of why we're doing this.
Any further questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, I don't believe so. Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on. I think he's going to hang around here because you're next again. Okay, Mr. W. So next discussion item is graduation updated New Mexico PED competency requirements. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, Mr. Wogemuth will present this item.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey, I want to share with you some updated NMPED graduation competency, or what we used to call testing requirements. I do want to clarify, and these blue circles really sort of help this. To get a diploma in New Mexico, you have to do two things. You have to meet your coursework requirements, that's the credits. That is what our 26 credits are. That's what is just got signed by the governor to happen, change those in a couple of years. And then they also have the competency requirements, which means you have to demonstrate you are competent in reading, writing, math, science, and social studies. You do those two things, and you get a diploma. Since before the pandemic, well, the pandemic threw all this competency and credit thing into a little crazy. And so prior to the pandemic, as secondary folks, as high school folks and principals, the PED provided a very clear, guidance on what you had to do. And then they really kind of jumbled up in the pandemic because the need was there. And right now, we're barely just coming out of it back to some normalcy. So we sort of unlearned everybody what we needed to do, and now we're going to have to relearn. And so I want to make sure, from a board perspective, you're educated on the competency requirements that just got put into place. The competency requirements, how you meet the competency requirements, it's important to understand that the PED can define those by rule. They don't require legislative action to define what competency is, but the PED can sort of say, this is how you meet competency, that's how you meet competency. So again, what we're talking about today is not what the governor just signed, it's about what we used to call the testing requirements. It's important to know that these competency requirement revisions that I'm going to share with you do not apply to this year's seniors. They apply to the cohort of 2025, that's the juniors next year. It's also important to note, they released this to us on November 16th, which was the day before Thanksgiving. And then, of course, you know, we had to come up with a plan. So it's a little late for the PED to release that. I think the academic services team has done a good job in making a plan to make sure we can get the ball rolling. And these slides are going to show how we're going to approach that. And again, doesn't address these seniors. If you're wondering what are the competency requirements for this year's seniors, all they have to do is attempt their required state tests and pass their classes, okay, which they are in the process of doing. So I just wanted you to share that with you. Again, coursework requirements, that's our current 26 credits. We're going to skip over that because this is not a discussion about coursework requirements. Okay, so the competency requirements have two prongs, okay? Two things you have to do. You have to do step one and then step two. Prong one basically says you have to participate in your state assessments. You have to participate, and they've listed them here. In high school, it's the SAT during the school day for reading, writing, and math. And for most students, for science, it is the New Mexico Assessment for Science Readiness that happens in 11th grade. So prong one is, hey, you have to make sure you take your state tests. You do not have to pass them in prong one. You just have to make sure you take them, okay? And that's an important fact there. Prong one continued. Again, you don't have to pass the state tests, but when I talk about prong two here in a second, if you do score a certain score on the state test, it can count for your reading, writing, math, and science portion. Okay, now those are traditionally difficult to pass, and so you'll see why we've made a decision to make sure another way our kids can meet competency. Prong two. So in addition to prong one, you have to demonstrate competency in these 5 areas, and so the PED on the 16th of November shared with us 19 ways to meet prong two, okay? And here are the 19 ways. I'm not going to go into the 19 ways, but I'm going to give you a little context on how to read this. On the top, you see the 5 subjects, reading, writing, math, science, and social studies. And each of those 19 ways, if it's blue underneath that heading, that means that test or that competency demonstration can cover that subject area. If it's gray with an X, that means that exam or competency demonstration doesn't cover that subject. So if you look there, you go down there to A6 where it says SAT during the school day, or DLM, which is for some of our students with disabilities. The SAT during the school day, if you get the proper score, will give you competency for reading, writing, and math, but not science and social studies. Then you look on A7, that's the New Mexico Science Assessment for Science Readiness. It only counts for science. So do you see here, not very many of these, do you do one thing and it counts for all 5? And that is a challenge. And so the selection we've made to support our kids is one that will cover all 5 areas. And I'm going to talk briefly here in a moment about A4, which are high quality LEA, or district approved, course finals, okay? And this is what we have chosen to focus our energy on to make sure we can get our kids demonstrating competency immediately. We're calling them district final exams, so if you hear that. The specialists are going to create these district final exams, and you can see here the subjects that we are creating district final exams for. You can see kind of by grade level there. And you'll notice there's no senior level DFEs or district final exams listed there because we're not worried about our seniors demonstrating competency this year because they're not required to. Our goal is to make sure that with all of our students that this can apply to, the 11th graders, the 10th graders, and the 9th graders, that they immediately have the opportunity to start passing some of these district final exams to demonstrate competency. So I'm going to share with you why we selected these, and then I'll give you a couple of examples and ask if you have any clarifications. We chose the district final exams because they're already tied to a course the kids take annually. So it's not going to be an extra exam. So the district final exam that we're creating for those subjects that I shared with you on the previous slide will replace the course final exam. So it's going to become one thing together. Okay, so you take your district final exam is now your course final exam. It will count as competency, can also count as your required final exam for the class. This is also very powerful and right now because we can make sure as the specialists are constructing these district final exams that they align with the proficiency scales, some target level skills that we're developing for Marzano. So it's really bringing some alignment into our curriculum and complementing the work that we're doing with Marzano's. I think that last bullet on the top part I do want to share with you that's important. Students will take the exam at the end of each course annually, but only needs to pass one of them per content area to be competent. So I'm going to go back to this slide here. I just need to pass with one of these math tests for my competency. Okay, so I'll take, if I'm a freshman this year, I'm going to take Algebra 1 in May. That Algebra 1 test is going to count for my competency for graduation and for my final exam for Algebra 1. Okay? If I pass it, my freshman year, if I pass Algebra 1 my freshman year, the district final exam, I've met my math competency requirement. So I no longer have to stress about passing my geometry and Algebra 2 exams for competency. I just have to worry about passing them as a final exam for my class. So the student doesn't have to pass Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 for competency. They just need to pass one of those math tests for state competency, and they'll continue to want to do well on them for their course final exams. So the kids will basically have one good chance each year to demonstrate state competency on an exam they're already going to be taking anyway. And so our goal is you don't want to wait until a kid is a junior or a senior where they're trying to pass these things for graduation. You want to help them get them knocked out throughout the four years. And then if they're struggling at the end, typically on math, if they're struggling at the end, then you can really focus on, hey, you haven't passed your math competency for graduation yet. Let's really work hard to make sure you can pass this Algebra 2 when you're a junior. And then we still have the senior year to kind of make up. The last couple of things I want to share is, the current final exams we're giving, they don't meet the ones the teachers make themselves. They don't meet the requirements to use for competency. That's why our specialists are building them. The specialists are developing blueprints and information to give the teachers on what's going to be assessed, what parts of the proficiency scales. I think the last things I'll share, and then I can answer your questions, are we have the presentation similar to this. It just has more detailed information that's been shared with the campuses that I know have been using coffee with the principal and with the kids, and so we'll make sure that gets out to the community. The specialists will continue to support questions that the teachers have and developing those exams. I think it's important to understand this is a significant undertaking, and we want to try to get it right. We're trying to make sure we problem solve and meet the needs as scenarios arise. Because again, this was given to us on November 16th. We had Thanksgiving, and we had to develop a plan. And really, we've been working on constructing these just since the start of January. And the specialists have done a tremendous job in trying to get everything out. And so really, I think it's important to know that in our plans that we're developing here and shifting, we're committed to supporting our students in demonstrating competency. And we are going down the right path, and we know that over the next 3 or 4 years, we're going to unfold this and learn some things and make sure that we have a smooth process going forward. So I just want to make sure you had information on that. Are there any clarifications that I can provide for you?
Any questions, comments? Mrs. Rodriguez.
I have one question. So, when the specialists are formulating the DFEs, will they be working in or collaborating also with the teachers? I mean, I know that it has to be aligned with the proficiency scales, right? So, technically, whatever is in that exam should be something that should be taught during the year. I mean, how is it going to be evaluated to see that this is happening and not some of the information is not being left out to where the student, if they are failing, is it because the teacher failed to present this information to them because the specialist knew this is what they should have? I don't know if that...
Yeah. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey, I think the development of proficiency scales we've been doing the last year and a half have really given us a leg up in that because the teachers have had opportunities to contribute to those. I think it's important, and there's the whole manual on this from the PED. It's important from I would say, an integrity standpoint that we make sure that we treat these a little bit as kind of a secure state test, right? There's some procedures that our kids are used to, and we don't want to stress them out, but we don't want to get to the point where the teachers know blueprints, what's going to be on there. We don't want to get to the point where the teacher is picking the questions and then going back and directly coaching the kids on the answers, right? You want to be careful when you're in that space for an assessment that is being used for graduation. Granted, right, with any time you're trying to unify or do something new, there's going to be some hiccups on that. And so we do want to make sure, and again, with our juniors are the ones that are going to be taking them this May, that again, they'll have some opportunity, we'll work out some opportunities earlier in their senior year for makeups or retakes for anything that may have fell a little short in the teacher's, instruction or coverage. But again, the teachers have had adequate input on the scales. Those blueprints are being released simultaneously, and so they do have an opportunity to know, gosh, I haven't been covering this element of the scale. I need to make sure before the end of the year I refresh or support, especially our juniors, right, who are the ones that are closest to the end. They'll have that information from the scale to go back and fill in the hole. Will they have the tests and the questions? We're not going to provide that. We want to have some level of integrity, but they'll know. What the specialists did is they have the proficiency scale elements, the target elements, and then in the column right next to it actually has the standards that are tied into that target on the scale. And we're not making these tests 1,000 questions long. That's not useful to anybody. They're all about 20 or 22 questions long, right? That way that we can really focus in on what's important and not just go with a little bit of quality versus quantity. So I think we're going to be okay, Ms. Rodriguez. I understand your thought on that. But I think we're going to come out on the positive end for all of our kids.
Any further questions? I don't even know what to say. Simply because I'm like, I know it's not your or our decision, but I'm like, what is PET thinking with 19? And what worries me is, will our kids be truly college career ready at the end when when our district is doing something, district over there is doing something, this other district is doing something, and that's something I guess we have to address with the PED. That's what's crazy, yeah. When is this due to the PED?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey, these aren't actually due to the PED. They're actually, what they do, there's a graduation document that has all those 19 things, and it tells you what you're supposed to do for each of those 19 for it to be valid, per se, right? And so I believe we just have to basically make sure these are aligned to the standards, and it's very generic, and they're high quality, they're aligned to the standards. They referred us, the examples, in, again, they referred us to the old end of course exams that they used to use, that the PED made prior to the pandemic. We had a set of them. When they said, when you're looking for a high quality type exam, refer back to what we were doing before the pandemic, the EOCs that we made, but don't use those EOCs as the exams. So that's what we referenced as high quality of what they did previously. So we really just have to keep them on file, keep those blueprints, how are they aligned, and we just keep the information on file here, and it's really a determination of the academic services team on, is this sufficient?
Because the other thing that worries me is, like I said, the keyword was integrity.
Right.
Where when the PED hires outside companies to create these tests, and what worries me is, that hopefully it's not the case that individuals might decide to, which is not forbidden, but like, you know where I'm getting to?
Yes, ma'am.
And then is it really showing that our kids are proficient? But you touched on a topic of security tests. So is PED requiring us to then store these, because you said it's considered secure item, are teachers going to have to store these tests for 5 years, or what's the deal with that?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey, 5 years, that's a good number to store state tests, right?
That's what they do.
So they don't say we have to store a test for 5 years. We're supposed to keep the student's score of competency on file for 5 years. Right now, these tests, we have them, housed in our Performance Matters online platform that the kids use for other things. Again, we're keeping those secure with the specialists. The PED does not say, the PED does not say in their guidance, have the same security measures you're having for the SAT or the Old Park, they don't say that, but we've decided that's what our students are used to, that's what our teachers are used to, so we're going to do our best to hold to that same standard. Put your phones away, put your bags over here, don't talk about the test, don't make copies, those things that we normally do, and we think as a district, that's the way we can keep the highest amount of integrity. But as with even state tests, SATs and NMSARs, there's those testing irregularities where people are being dishonest, and we'll decide administratively how we handle that. But if we don't come out of this, if we don't first say this is an important test, keep it secure from the get-go, then if you just say here's the test, whatever from the get-go, people are really going to not treat it with the amount of integrity they need to. So we want to really come out with a similar level, and then we'll monitor how that goes, and we can always, do different versions and forms and questions of the test as we develop. But right now we're working hard to get something together.
So the goal is for next year?
Well, we will give these tests at the end of this year to all the grade levels. That way they can start. We don't want to get behind because the juniors need it. So we will have tests ready, but as we want to add to them and get more versions of the test and more questions on the test, just in case there's a security breach, we'll have future years to add to that. So we'll have a base that we're going to use this year, and then as we want to make different versions, keep security, we'll have more years to add, so we have a nice bank to pick from.
Okay, you answered my question. So we're creating a bank.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then since we're going to administer this year, is there going to have to be like amendments to current IEPs when it comes to test accommodations?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Dempsey, that is one of those areas that we've been in discussion with the Special Education Department on what the best thing to do is. And so, again, our seniors are going to be okay. Our underclassmen, we've talked with Mr. because the PED doesn't provide exact guidance on that, and we've been working with the SPED department about the students that are on the modified pathway, which you can set a level of competency. They take the test the first time. If they don't meet the standard cut score, the IEP team can convene and decide, do we set a cut score that's lower, a level of competency that's lower? We have talked about how to do that effectively. We have some ideas on, we give the kids the test this fall, or this spring, the juniors. Do we reconvene an IEP in August to set new LOCs and make sure we give the SPED kids a retake of what they did in May? We're just still trying to figure out the method on that because the PED is very ambiguous on that. So we're just trying to make the best decision. If they come back later and say, you should have done X, Y, Z, we want to make sure we have a good plan. And so I've been working with Mr. Rapinot on that.
Okay, and then just a last question is, if we, well, because the elections are this November, if obviously we might, can our governor run again, or she's out. So regardless of who comes in, could this go away again? Right?
Madam President, members of the Board Superintendent Dempsey, I'm going to say, let's hope not. There's a lot of work going into this. But as I mentioned, the competency portion of the graduation requirement, that is basically a legislative rule that says the PED will determine what counts as competency for reading, writing, math, science, and social studies. So the PED could change the competency requirements again. There's no wood here. Let's hope they choose not to.
Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our last discussion item is discussion item 10E, retention stipend, sick leave buyback. Superintendent Dempsey.
Madam President, board members, I just want to review, I've received several calls and requests, and I wouldn't be surprised if you haven't received some calls, or just as you run into people, some conversation. So just to review, we did offer a retention stipend last year, and those are great opportunities to help retain great staff and remind them of how important they are. And then the sick leave buyback process, we started in the fall. Now, I'll also remind you that an employee had a choice if they participated. They could receive the full amount if they sold, and they could receive the full amount immediately, or cut it in half and receive half of it in April, which would allow them to spread it across 2 tax periods. So there will be an allocation for some employees of sick leave buyback in April. That's not new, it comes from last. And there are no dollars budgeted to do additional stipends or buyback. So I just want to make sure we all stay on the same page. I've received some questions, and I understand where staff are at. I do not anticipate any retention or additional buybacks this year. So I just want to review that with you in case you received that question. I have several times, and I think our HR has as well.
Any questions, comments? No? Okay, thank you, sir. Moving on to our item 12, we have listed here our upcoming board meetings and events.
Madam President, just a correction on B. Our next regular board meeting is March 7th, not the 14th. So please make sure you update your calendar. It's the 7th.
Okay. And just make sure, like I said earlier, it is stated there graduation takes place 24th and 25th, so families can start telling their family members to save the dates. I'm not going to read the rest, but they're there for us to make sure we attend those, if we can, those events. And with that, we move on to item number 13. I make a motion that we now adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, folks. We are now adjourned. The time is 7:01. Have a good evening.